Hi, Mark Jabin here, Medical Director for the Haywood County Health Department, and let's talk about this pandemic. So a brief update on last week's update, which was recorded on Thursday. And on Friday, there were 3 additional positive cases reported, making that 8 for the last week. And that calls into question whether we are on the downside of the spike which started 3 weeks ago. There have been 21 cases new since this spike started, and that's a doubling rate just under 5 days. That puts us again in a very concerning space. So right now, here's how we rate. What we can say is the flame is clearly turned up. The lid still in the pot. It's not boiling over yet, but it is hotter to the touch. And maybe this is time for us to add a little pasta and get things settled down. There is a trend that's becoming clearer for us in western North Carolina and Haywood County. The majority of these infected cases are people under the age of 40, exposed at work in a group setting like a factory or a store, bringing it home, and family then getting infected. So the message is pretty clear. We can limit each other from getting infected to a great degree. That's what the public health measures are all about. And you can think of these as the 3 W's. Wash your hands and surfaces. Wait. Keep your 6-foot distance. Wear a mask. All necessary, but none sufficient enough to keep the pot from boiling over. The key then becomes stabilizing the lid, limiting the spread to others from those who do get infected. That's the role of contact tracing, testing, and containment. And being able to do this effectively depends on what you do. Now, in many of these recent cases, that effectiveness has been severely hampered. People did not isolate once ill. Many kept going out in the community. Or their home was not set up well for isolation. Or people did not quarantine once exposed or tested. They kept going out and about. So in addition to the 3 W's, let's start showing how smart we are. Start showing how high your IQ is. I, for isolation, if and as soon as you get ill. Q, quarantine, once exposed or tested. And just to be clear, let's review what isolation means. You can also go back to episode number 8 and have a look. At home, isolation means in a separate room, and if possible, a separate bathroom. It means disinfecting frequently used surfaces. A mix of 1/3 cup bleach and a gallon of water in a spray bottle works well. You just have to be sure to let it dry for 5 minutes. And a solution of at least 70% isopropyl alcohol works too. Avoid sustained contact with family. If you must go out of your room and interact with family like to eat, remember the 3 W's. Wash hands before. Wait, keep 6-foot distance. Wear a mask. And when done, wash hands again. Wearing gloves is not a bad idea here either. And if you live with someone who is particularly vulnerable, be extremely careful or find somewhere else to isolate. Frankly, this reminds me of Japanese beetles. You know, your neighbors can be careful every day to set traps and pick them off their vegetable plants. But if you aren't careful, all your beetles just fly over and trash all their efforts. So don't be that neighbor. None of our fellow residents who have gotten infected thought it would happen to them. And the fact that they're all young bodes well for their recoveries. But if it gets out of their houses, how long do you think it will take to get to our most vulnerable? And if you still believe it can't happen here, you'd be ignoring places like Albany, Georgia, Gainesville, Georgia, Trousdale, Tennessee, and every other hot spot. You'd have to dismiss the suffering of fellow Americans and continue to put your family, friends, neighbors, and someone you hear you don't even know at risk, who stand to suffer because of what you do or don't do. If there was ever a time to be more careful, now is it. So be well, stay emotionally connected, and as you venture out and about or welcome others into your place of business, practice the 3 W's. And if you get sick or exposed or tested, demonstrate a high IQ. This is the best recipe to protect health and preserve the economy.